6:30, so let's move forward. I'm passing the sign-up sheet around, so if you're here, initial your name, not somebody else's. Order at 6:30.
I'm Gary Farrell.
Roll call is being passed around. We'll have that when we're finished. Adoption of the agenda. I sent that out a couple of days ago. If you look at it, is that okay with everybody? Do you want to add, subtract? Nothing?
Fine to me.
Okay.
That's good.
We'll approve the agenda by acclamation. Approval of the minutes. I also sent out the minutes when I sent the notification of this meeting. You review those, and if you have any corrections to the minutes.
Oops.
Hearing none, I will approve the minutes by acclamation. Continuing business. So at this point, we've all got charters. I did want to report that we have lost 2 members over the last couple of weeks. One is Hannah, and the other is Clark Champion. He's going to be moving on to do some other things at this point. So when we get to facilities, infrastructure and transportation, we'll discuss that. So parks, recreation, and trails. We have our charter for that, and we're supposed to move forward on the future plans. And what do you got on that?
Well, we met actually last week, and we had Maddie Outley join us.
Good.
And we looked over the master plan that Current Parks is putting together as a basis for that. And Marcy also brought a copy of the original set of parks plans for Sun Valley, which I don't know if anybody's seen it. It's a pretty interesting booklet. I've got that as a PDF. I got it from Brian a while back when I joined Parks and Trails. So I'm going to get that emailed out to us as well. So we had a discussion of kind of where Sun Valley wants to go. We got a little tied up in the difference between trying to recreate the vision of the past and putting too much into what maybe isn't worth the vision now. And so adjusting, looking at what we the vision of the past and maybe adopting that moving forward. Maddie took us a tour on this building, actually.
Okay.
She wanted to show off the new equipment the rec got and that sort of thing. We did discuss the because this is one of the highest used areas. We actually had a guy come by and caught on to what we were talking about. He's a guy that's grown up here, he's got his kids here, and it was like this is the spot if you're going to do anything.
Right.
The community center, the recreation community center, having a place that draws people in, creates community. He reminisced about coming here after school, that sort of stuff. And there's a lot of, we talked about how a lot of that vision of kids, letting your kids out and run around after school is kind of gone. It's just, I produced a kid in the modern day, and I remember, when I was a kid, very different. We were out till hours in the night, and, we didn't have cell phones, and, with my daughter, it was like, where are you, what are you doing? She's 22, and I'm still wanting to know where she is and what she's doing.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So what is the plan to move forward? Have you identified a list of potential recreational
we haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you're just kind of doing the review at this point, see where are we today?
Yeah.
So that we know, moving forward what we want. Okay.
Yeah. And we discussed with, with the trails committee myself, I'm putting together a map for current trails of all the trails in Sun Valley that's going to be adapted, and long range planning, Parks and Trails taking that and looking how in long range, how does that kind of work?
Okay.
Where do we want to go with that? But basically we're looking at what is the ending point of current Parks and Trails.
Right. So you want after that? Okay. Anybody have comments?
So as you're talking with them about center of the community attitude, the community center, what is it if they had a new facility? If they had if we took this building down, they put up a new one, what is it that they would want in the new one they don't have now, and why do they need a new one? Outside of the fact that it's an old building and it's a maintenance nightmare, what is it? It would be helpful to hear what they would want in that facility, childcare, for
Yeah,
example.
well, that's one of the things, childcare, place where, you know, somebody could rent out as a wedding and serve alcohol. I've been to a dry wedding, not very fun, people leave.
Very short.
Yeah, they are.
And the gentleman that walked up, he indicated that, you know, it rains here a lot.
Yeah,
And someplace where kids can go indoors and have activities after school or whatever.
yeah, there's talk about having a gym and that sort of thing, and it being associated with workout equipment, but a large multi-purpose room that, you know, was big enough to have, you know, say a couple basketball courts, maybe not a full court, but, you know, that sort of thing.
Mark?
Would it be correct in assuming that when revitalization was planned and there was a new facility that was in the works, that was part of the consideration? Would that be helpful to give to Adam? If that's
You know, we can give it, but I think the point was what we have now and what we don't have. We can't serve alcohol. We can have weddings, very short ones, but you'll not see a line of people over at the clubhouse building waiting to sign up to rent our place
No, I
for a wedding.
understand.
Oh, hold on. However, there is a shortage of places to go and rent to have weddings, and they pay a lot of money for it, right? But it's not like it's a return on investment, but it's a nice, right? I think he has everything, but it would be nice, since he's working with the committee, put in everything you think.
Yep.
No,
So that's our next step.
whether it'd be helpful if there were plans that were made, or if there were considerations that were put in place when you were talking about revitalization and replacing this building.
Do you want
I
a
remember
copy
seeing
of what
pictures
was-
of that. And I was
Do you want a copy?
Sure. If you want to email it to me, that's fine.
You have to get them from Joe. If it's on the server, I'll get them from Joe. I'll send them to him. I'll send them to Adam.
One of the things I remember talking about when I was sitting in on these committee meetings was, you're looking for new members, you're still looking for new members.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right, so I'm gonna check off the different groups that do want
Yeah,
to.
we did cross a few members off the list with the email.
Yeah, who have not shown up.
Yeah, who had either not shown up or, yeah. And there's still, there's still a few that we're waiting to hear from, but,
Yeah, we only had, consistently, we've had 3 people, and then we had a 4th the
yeah,
last
Chris
time.
Keller.
Yeah, and that was nice, but we talked about the fact that we're really gonna have to zero in on just maybe a handful of things, cause there's only 4 of us, you know, or maybe 3.
Okay,
And so that was our concern, that we're gonna have to just focus on, you know, a couple things that, you know, we want. And that gentleman brought up a good point, that it rains so many months of the year, and we need a facility where these kids can have, you know, things to do.
undercover somewhere.
Yes, yes.
We started brainstorming some of the short list of, you know, some of just the new stuff that kids do inside. And, electronics, right?
Yeah,
A game room, you know.
great to have a basketball net court in front of
But
it.
yeah, people, you know, yeah, there we go.
I think it should have a jamming device, and they should be told, that's a soccer ball. That's a basketball.
Steve,
How, on the trails, the only trail I've ever taken advantage of is Run Lake to Louise. How big are these trails, and do they get close to the edge of the properties?
Yeah, answer the question, yeah, they do get close to the edge of the property. Strawberry Falls Trail, I
Wide,
believe-
I'm thinking about.
Oh, how wide? 3 feet, 2 feet. I mean, as far as the actual footpath, it's probably maybe 2 feet. The cleared area is 5 feet or so. I mean, it really depends on the trail. Some of these trails have not seen maintenance in forever because they've been forgotten about. Some are just, you know, as far as the map that I've been putting together, some are just by looking at the property that Sudden Valley owns and what streets it connects and where it gets you. It's, you know, it's like there should be a trail there.
Yeah.
Some utilize old right of way. There's a couple that, you know, closed roads that were abandoned for one reason or another within Sudden Valley, and, you know, there's been trails established along them.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Dave?
One of the things that seemed to resonate with a lot of people from a recreation standpoint was the possibility of some type of a enclosed pool.
We discussed that as well.
Okay, yeah, because that would kind of accomplish what you're saying as far as having a place for teenagers and
Oh,
so
yeah.
forth to go that's covered to get out of the weather and still have
We've
a
got a
facility without.
Covered heated pool, we've
Yeah.
got a really long pool season.
And not the cost of a new building or anything of that nature, the cost potentially would be relatively minimal
$250,000.
compared to a new building.
Yeah, 2 million.
Yeah.
There's a
Maybe.
potential to get some revenue from it too.
Well, you're not gonna get something like that and it's gonna have a return on investment in any kind of financial fiscal basis, but you would have a return on investment facility use and
Mhm.
purpose.
Sure.
And so as long as I think the communication includes, we would go after this not for the investment, although we get some, but because we'll use it.
Yeah, a family utilization aspect. I'm one of those who tend to believe that I don't agree with the idea that everything that we do has to make money or it has to have potential to have earnings, you know, because we're establishing facilities for the valley, for the people in the valley to utilize. It doesn't have to make money to create something that brings the valley together and is a good facility for it.
Just, may I respond?
Yes.
So, as the budgeting process that we're going through right now, people were asked to send in your comments to the board, and they were printed out. And one of the comments from a member was, please ignore this "if you build it, they will come" attitude. And I read that and I thought, okay, you know, we certainly mentioned that during revitalization. Well, they have come, and the community is coming in higher and higher and higher numbers to the community center now. It's becoming, it's getting to be the more than we're full, right? It's heavily used. I believe that if you put that cover over it, they will continue to expand into it. When it comes to the community center, to support what you said,
Yeah.
I believe that that's correct.
Maddie had told us, I think, that the day before, there were 300 visitors at the
Yeah.
pool the day before she spoke with us. So, I mean,
And,
who knows in the winter, but again, what you're saying,
and 700 a week going to the gym.
yeah.
So
I just wondered,
YMCA.
in your discussion, did you talk about, we had this conversation in our committee, about ice, putting ice back in and skating?
No, we haven't got there. I think the gentleman that walked by did mention that, that was one of the things you were finally drawn up was being able to do the ice skating.
Well, the only reason I asked, when we moved here, and I've been here a long time, we had skating and the place was jammed all the time. There was always somebody down skating, and albeit it wasn't a full-size rink, but we've had this conversation. The youth hockey program in Whatcom County is struggling for ice. They can't find any. And I know they're paying $100,000 a year now for ice, and they don't have enough ice.
We shut that down in 2002 or so when Bob and I were on the board. And one of the reasons is for a couple of years before that, they had brought it up and they had opened it and consistently lost money at it. And I went back into the minutes of SVCA and discovered that during the time period that we were actually making money there, it was because we were getting donations from the National Hockey League to put skaters out there. Once that stopped, we couldn't keep going. So
I'm not so sure that would change now, because there's a huge change in.
unfortunately, the
in
buildings.
Well, that's the
So
point,
that's-
if we're
yeah.
gonna start rebuilding,
Yeah.
that is history.
Yes.
But there are options available to us, and I think I mentioned this to one of the other committees, is we need to take a lesson from our neighbors to the north. When they build youth recreation centers, their hockey and keeping the ice hard heats the pool, and vice versa.
Okay.
And
So
so
you've
they,
got two different citizens of,
no, they work together, they go
That's
year
what they do
round.
with the heat, when they
It has to
take
do-
the
Exactly.
heat, when they use the compressor to heat the pool.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very popular to the north, and I know it's very popular. We have over 1,000 kids in the program, and we're
Yeah.
turning kids away now.
Interesting.
So, and we've got, what, 2 years, we're gonna have a professional hockey team here.
yeah,
So I think the environment's changed, and I would certainly
So that's
encourage you to take
something
a look at it.
it's something to look at, yeah.
Looked at and then seeing, reach, I don't know who the contact person is with the local youth hockey league,
I know him well, it's my son.
because it would seem that you'd want to have like something in place that, some sort of agreement in place too, that, that they would be, utilize the Sutton Valley facility,
I have no
substantially
idea.
just to,
Yeah.
just because it is a sizable investment, but if there's, that much money being spent a year on ice, then.
Yeah, Mitch?
As GM, I was approached at least 3 different times by people saying that they would like to come out here and use our rink. And on 2 occasions, we've turned the facility loose and said, go, please inspect, let us know. And what will you bring to the dance to help us revitalize the facility? And there was wild enthusiasm at the beginning, and then just disengagement as it went on. So either they were disenchanted with the shape of the facility or the quality of the facility, or one reason or another they evaporated. But at least 3 times.
I'm aware of one, and I know what the concern is, but that's another discussion, so.
Okay, anything else? All right, on to finance review and capital planning.
We did not have a meeting this month because of the amount of effort that's going into budgeting this month.
Okay,
We did lose Hannah, as the committee lost Hannah, we've lost Hannah. I'm going to have to call everyone and say, okay, I'm gonna need to understand who's gonna stay on. We've had several people do no-shows now on several months. And I asked 2 people today if they would join the committee. I'm gonna have to add more people to it,
okay,
and I'm waiting for their responses.
okay. All right, so then you'll handle your own,
I think so.
okay.
At this point, the next meeting, we have assembled a list of projects. I didn't put the hockey on, but the heated pool was a topic. And a list of non-dues revenue generating projects. The next meeting is to rank them and start evaluating which ones we believe are viable to propose back to this committee to ask which ones the committee would like to support to the board.
Okay,
That's where we're at.
all right, and then what you are waiting for actually is some other proposals from other committees to bring to you to do an evaluation, or?
After the committees have their proposals, I believe you wanted them to come up here and decide if they would be viable and supported first, and if so, then we would hear from them. So right now, we're
Okay.
going ahead and generating our list. We'll rank and prioritize our list and bring it up to this committee, just like every other committee, and ask which ones they want to support.
Okay. So it sounds like maybe about 2 months, because you're.
I would say that
your
we're
own
June,
evaluation
July.
going on.
I would say by August, we should have July, we should have the report back to you and say, here's our list of projects. And then we'll start looking at ours.
Okay,
Yeah, I would say that's our next deliverable.
okay, all right.
It would have been this month, but I canceled the meeting. Last week was meeting central in this building.
Yes. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I
That's
know, I
correct.
understand. Dave?
A subject dear to my heart, and I'm not sure where it falls in the committees, and that's FAWS. We talked about it before.
It's
FAWS, F-A-W-S, with
Urban wildlife,
tree
yeah.
control.
Right.
Here we are in the summer, and it's getting hot, it's getting dry,
Yep,
they're starting to get fires. I certainly encourage whichever committee this is gonna fall under, that we have to be looking at that as to how do we move forward if, on this issue as far as control of our trees, the management of the trees and the slash that's accumulated in our forests that create real potential for fires. And that previously was called FAWS. back.
Forest and Wildlife Safety?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, back quite a few years ago, but I think it's critical.
Okay.
If you'd like, when I had sent a note to Clark about this, I don't know if you passed that on to you or not, with respect to forest management issues. And if you'd like, I can say a few words about that when we get to infrastructure. I don't know if that makes.
Okay, what I'm looking at is, as far as the safety issue goes, is, was infrastructure and transportation, is that what you're looking at? Or, actually, I'm looking at it for, community safety planning. That's where I think that should go.
It's been identified as a race car.
Okay.
We're already,
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of our,
So that is something that you are already.
That is one of your,
Okay.
that's good, yeah.
All right,
how long, can I just say something?
yeah,
This goes across finance, which you talked about infrastructure and the former FOS program. I just got back from Germany, and one of the things we did is went for a hike in the forest. And what the Germans do, where we were, is they cull their trees, cut them and sell them. So, I mean, if we could, I mean, I don't even know if that's possible around here, but I know a friend of mine had
They
his.
sell living trees?
No, they cut them,
Okay.
they clear it.
So,
And so they drastically reduced their fire risk, and they made money selling those logs to various, local industries, local landowners, or local homeowners to use for fuel, for example. So I mean, it was absolutely amazing that those forests look pristine, and they got trails up the yin yang, and they're beautiful.
So I had a conversation with Mitch about 2 years ago about forest issues. And Mitch asked me to, when I'm looking at this, to be looking at it in a more comprehensive manner. And so the last 2 years I've been trying to do this. One of the things that I talked to Clark about in this letter was that on the one hand, and I asked you about this in terms of where forest health and forest management would fit, and you mentioned infrastructure. The reason for that, one of the things that I think is that we have the safety group, which is interested in forest risk, fire risk mitigation and things along those lines. I'm interested in forest health, generally speaking, and I'm thinking about a comprehensive approach, as opposed to having a group of this group has this group has this group has this. And so I'd like to think that there could be some sort of way in which we would be able to approach this, and long-term planning, long-range planning, that would be more comprehensive. So that, it might be possible, for example, one of the things that I proposed to him, just throwing things on the table, is to either hire with or hire or contract with or hire a certified arborist or forest management specialist and crew to deal with forest-related issues. These would include regular survey and assessment of designated park screen spaces and private property, tree trimming, removal of dangerous and diseased trees, both on community and private property, thinning of trees in an appropriate manner to increase forest health and increase resiliency of the forest as the effects of climate change become more pronounced and to reduce the risk of wildfire, to clear excessive woody debris from forest floor, sides of roads, etc. The replacement of trees and understory plants where necessary or desirable to maintain forest vitality and ensure watershed integrity, as well as for aesthetic reasons, to coordinate with ACC, builders and staff to ensure the best tree preserving practices are employed on construction sites. Now, in order to do this, I think there are things that we could be thinking about doing. On the one hand, we'd have to research how much it would cost to actually employ and train and whatnot a group of people, the division that would be in forest management issues. I think there's enough to be done here that it would certainly warrant that. I think that there's a way in which we need to be able to look in terms of infrastructure. I realize the forest is not a capital issue, or the way in which most infrastructure issues are. And nevertheless, we could call it a strategic non-capital asset of the community. There are certainly ways in which we have to address the kinds of concerns that you have, the kinds of concerns that you have, but why not look at the forest overall? Now, why do we have to include private property in this? Well, according to the forest management plan that was delivered in 2015, I have this down, 701 acres of the roughly 1,576 acres of Sudden Valley are community owned. That means that more than half is private property, whether it's developed or not. Without having a comprehensive plan that would include both of these somehow, if we're thinking long-range planning, you're not going to have a really viable sort of fire risk mitigation program, because if you only clear up 700 acres, you're leaving 800 acres that are potentially not being addressed. So the idea here is that if we're thinking long-range planning, it might require something like a dues increase in order to be able to pay for aerial trucks that you could use to be able to take down trees and things like that, and to provide, and to pay a staff that would be trained and certified to be able to take care of some issues like that. But if we look at what we're paying for now in terms of the removal of dangerous trees on community property alone, that's a significant cost. I know I have a tree behind my house that I'm looking at, it's been dying for the last 2 years. It's a big hemlock. I know this is going to cost me $5,000–6,000. I know that if I had to pay $20 a month to have an in-house service that would be taking care of these sorts of things, you know, I'd be happy to pay that. No. So I'm just saying. So there are ways in which this is how I've been thinking about it in terms of infrastructure and thinking about it more comprehensively.
So you can't sell it? You can't sell it?
We
The
don't
reason I say
know,
that
we
because-
don't know if we have, it's not like we have a lot of sellable wood. We logged many years ago the campground. And so our arborist from the 15 report said, I don't think you have enough wood and timber here for logging.
And FOS, if I can interrupt for 1 second,
Sure.
FOS did that. That was one of the premises of FOS, was that whoever did this, which was a private contractor,
Would keep the lumber.
that he would be able to harvest some of the wood.
Right.
Didn't work. He couldn't make enough money that way.
So therein lies our problem. However, your knowledge on this topic is extensive, and I agree that it's comprehensive. Probably burying it in a committee might be a problem, but we have to eventually deal with it. And it is an issue that transcends like 3 different teams. Would it be wise maybe to have a focus group to say, take this and put together a plan? You could ad hoc talk about this, and it's hard factual information, but this isn't the right forum. Is the right forum for us to say, do a joint something with the safety people and infrastructure, or just a group, and say, how are we going to do it? Because it's going to be pricey. There's very little offset in our timber. The type of wood that we're going to harvest is pulp.
Moreover, in terms of fire risk mitigation, it's not simply taking out trees.
No.
You have to be smart about that. If anybody wants to look at this afterwards, I'm gonna say,
Mark, you'll kill us.
No, I'm not going to go into a lot of this. This just came out this month. This is from the DNR. It talks about why our trees dying, but it also talks about thinning and the complications. It's not just a question of going in and taking out trees. The other thing is that there's an incredible amount of woody debris, and not all of it needs to be taken out. But the question is, so how do you do this in
and get rid of the slash at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So having a group.
And the county is against it. That's the weirdest part. See, the fire department is all for it. Watershed people are absolutely aghast and against it.
Well, I think they're gonna get it with a lawnmower and want to mow it down to the dirt.
Of course, and then of course you're going to stop with everything, sucking up all of the nitrogen, and it's going to create, all right?
Which is why if we could do this with a
Does
specialist
Westford
group.
have
that
a
would-
forestry management program that we could have some of the programs
I
come
think
out
if
and study ours as
we
like
could.
one of their
The question would
projects?
be how we go about putting together a proposal, and then get that proposal put together nicely so we can say, execute on it. Because the one-man band's not going to do it.
Sounds like we need to have a special team put together just to do that, and I think it's worthy of having
And it
a
would have
special
to include
team.
the Firewise people
Yeah,
also.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
Are
it's
we
gonna
looking
be,
The fire safety people.
Are we looking at another?
But there's people involved in Firewise,
This is so separate from them.
yeah.
really?
Yeah, this
I'm
is
not
way
sure.
beyond what they do.
No, I know it's beyond, but it also is included.
Well,
because
Wayne
part of what
Chartier
they're-
from the Department of Forestry would be a big proponent for what we're doing, and he is the local guru for fire safety. I know Wayne. Wayne would be, oh yeah, I'm absolutely in favor of it. You want money, don't you? I mean, that's Wayne, but he'd be right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd say we include him. Because forestry's gonna have to buy off on whatever we do.
Of many issues in the valley, my perspective, which, I'm right, but there's enough, attention given in the western states and Canada about forest fire dangers, the smoke, the fires. It's obviously very well known by everyone. I would think, my gut feeling is that if people in the valley were presented with a good presentation of the possibilities that exist in the valley for the same kind of thing to happen and what it would take, and we'd have to do our research ahead of time to figure out what it takes, but if we had to increase your dues by X amount in order to control this, would you support that? And I frankly think that the majority would, simply from the standpoint of you're protecting your biggest investment, your home and your life.
But again, are we looking at creating another subcommittee here devoted strictly to forest management? Or are we going to?
Another comment. The community outreach subcommittee, we kind of touched this nerve early on, it's just maybe there should be a natural resource committee for other reasons, you know, and really because of the number of interagency communications that must occur related to the watershed. And what I'm hearing tonight is probably an equal number related to forestry management. And there's probably a half dozen other topics that could fall under this standing committee's purview. Now, we're too early to, you know, recommend a scope or whatever, but personally, we kind of keep circling back, I do, at least mentally, that, you know, maybe there's something to be said for a natural resources committee that isn't Parks and Rec, obviously has some, you know, overlap or interface with that, but it just, you know, maybe that's a consideration.
Yeah,
So rather than a subcommittee that dives into it now, and I don't mean to dilute, you know, the forestry interest with other other motivations to such a committee, but I think there's probably some wisdom to it.
Seems like a committee that can handle, you know, quite a few different issues that Sudden Valley is facing. You know, I've worked in environmental planning and that sort of thing. You know, we work with a lot of the tribe and that sort of thing. They all have their own natural resources department that is, you know, deals with their land and what's being done with it, whether it's, you know, you name it.
Well, you've got DNR.
Well, yeah, exactly.
From the state standpoint.
So, yeah, we have a lot of models of what.
There's no shortage of regulators that will tell us what we can or mostly can't do.
Right.
What we need is to find someone who they all respect that says this is what you need to do. I think this group of people needs to figure out how to grab that person and have them become our advocate.
Okay, so what are we looking at right now?
I propose that you form a special committee specific for
Okay.
forest safety. That is good enough phrase, whatever you want to call it.
Forest management.
But not the expanded natural resources.
What would natural resources include in your estimation?
Well, I can't answer that really.
Because when I think
The
of-
early discussions were really an observation that there's, you know, 30 different agencies that care about what Sudden Valley does, and we care about what they do.
Because
And many of those are lake related,
Yeah, sure.
watershed related.
When I think of forest health related issues, I'm thinking of, in order to be able to maintain the viability of the watershed, in addition to forest health, I mean, that all goes together.
Okay.
You know, so these would be
What,
combinations.
I guess what Mitch was saying.
I would go with a committee for natural resources, all right? And their first credible mission is focus, put together a plan for how we're gonna fix this.
You mentioned that the county is opposed to this type of forest management.
Pieces.
You know the reason, because when you start taking those trees out, you start allowing the runoff to go into the lake, and all of a sudden, you're involved with the lake management anyway.
But he did mention replacing
Which is
it.
why one has to think about what thinning means.
Right, yeah, okay.
And what mitigation of fire risk means. Because it doesn't mean taking out necessarily all the trees.
No, not all of the trees, but even if you selectively take them out, you're stirring up the soil,
But
Well, I
that's
see
why
that.
you need expert input.
That's right, and also has to do with when it's done,
Show
how it's done, et cetera, so that's
It's a
why-
balance.
Oh,
I could see that committee also taking a look at how Sudden Valley as a whole can mitigate our phosphorus. You know, there's the HIP program, I don't know, you probably see the sign, if you're driving out here, it's unfortunately not available in our basin.
Right.
But I'm actually
We're working
certified
on that, yeah.
HIP designer, haven't
The other
done
thing
a
I would
project
say.
in a while, but there are quite a bit of things that the county is giving people, you know, benefits, money for,
Right.
to mitigate phosphorus because they're under the directive to do it.
get rid of your lawn
And,
and
you
the
know,
natural landscaping.
And
Oh,
when I
yeah.
asked them about, you know, well, what's Sudden Valley? What are you guys doing with Sudden Valley? And they're like, oh, we've got something working to kind of pushed it off, but
That means nothing.
yeah, that's what I kind of figured out.
The other thing I would just say is that the 2018 forest risk assessment that's done by the DNR indicated that last year, for example, in the period during the summer, July through September, we were about an inch of rain shy of what was normal. We're pretty lucky here. And I'm really happy to see this rain that we've had the last couple of weeks, plus this rain coming in. But even with that, tree mortality is increasing. And you know, how long are we going to continue to be lucky is a sort of interesting question. And one of the things that we see here is there is more tree mortality here, even with just that 1 inch, you know, because it's been several years in a row now, we've been getting less rain. Compared to the southern part of the state, or California, for example, it's not hit us yet, but we can see signs. And so the point is, the time to do something about it in terms of fire risk mitigation is now,
Yeah.
not
So,
5 or 10 years ago.
If we move forward with the natural resources subcommittee, okay, tell me how we're going to do this. Are we looking at Mark as a chair for this? Are we looking, we need to advertise then for committee members, we need to bring a charter forward, et cetera, et cetera. Is this the consensus of where we wanna go with this?
I think we should advertise for people. There is a lot of interest in the Firewise side. So the problem is they could get very, very focused and on a narrow band, and that's how we would fail. It has to be comprehensive, as Mark stated. I think it needs to be moved forward as.
Okay. So, is it the consensus that we do wanna form another subcommittee called Natural Resources? Is there any objection to that? Okay.
Based on the fact that we're saying, kind of like Mitch was saying, that the first thing that they're going to look at is a concerted look at forest health and what is required to maintain it.
Reduce our risk to wild man fire
Yeah.
Yeah,
and health of the forest
Right.
yeah.
and water quality.
And all that.
Comprehensive. But you can't touch, it's a
Yeah,
three-legged stool.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
I got a question, what's the role of our committee then? That's exactly the number one thing we've got for risk management, is wildland fire, fire mitigation.
I think you're going to feed them. You're gonna have to be able to drive it, because if we advertise for fire safety people, or Firewise people, they're not gonna look at it from your point of view. Why don't you take this on then? All right, let's just change this.
Well-
Why not just put this into your committee?
I mean, a natural resources committee would be, I think, an obvious thing, like we looked at community outreach. You know, when we started looking at all the stakeholders were to get involved and everything like that, it became a became very big, and you know that. I mean, you've experienced that. So, I can't answer your question, but I feel, I also am nervous about creating another committee.
Okay.
Can we
Because all of
just
our-
have it be part of their committee?
Because-
Maybe Mark could join that committee and be the expert on that.
And you
and
make,
get up
make a
the-
special
Yeah, leave that
section.
discussion forward.
That works.
Yeah.
Cause then their committee would be like the umbrella, but it would include this forest management comprehensive plan.
Which is beyond the safety aspect of it in a way.
I think
But
that
it's a,
two comments if I can. One is, first of all, I don't think, what I'm hearing, and you're gonna hear it again from us, we're struggling to add to the subcommittees that exist. And to create another subcommittee and find even more bodies, I think is, just adds to the challenge. try to answer your question, and, I can be dim, but I think there's a fundamental difference in that your committee is emergency response. It's today, kind of what do we do in the event of a catastrophe, whereas that's a much more long-range management view. So, it's emergency response versus long-range.
I don't look at it as just emergency response. That's down the list quite a ways, in fact, of our risk management. My suggestion would be is we've got subcommittees. If this committee has identified that wildland fire risk is very high, which it is on our risk matrix, then we need to, if we're going to mitigate that, then why do we have to have another committee? Why can't we just pull experts as part of our program to mitigate, rather than have another committee, because we're just going to be.
In any event, you're gonna have to find a way to be able to coordinate, because it's gonna.
I retract what I suggested, I agree with you. How's that? Right, I spoke without thinking, all right? There you go. You're right, but putting Mark on your committee, it would just expand, as Bob said, expands the role of your committee.
I think a natural resources committee is almost something that's going to come out of this long-range planning effort, because when you think about natural resources, it's planning 20 years from now, it's also planning tomorrow. That's what the department, DNR does, is they're basically timber salesmen, is what they do.
Yeah.
But, moreover, they are working on projects today, and they're working on projects in 20 years, so it's, maybe too big for this.
It's kind of like two different arms of this. One is, okay, the response. If you have a fire, how do we respond? How do we deal with that? And the other one is, how do we plan so that we don't have a fire? They're two different,
Well, for
parts of the
example,
same thing.
What committee are we right now finishing up? Are we in questions are now for their committee? Or?
No, we're still
safety.
finishing up with, where does this concept go? Okay. Steve?
I was just going to say that, for example, one of the things that we're looking at risk mitigation is multiple exits from the neighborhoods, from the various gates, and that's infrastructure, but it's in our risk management, matrix. So the idea, what we've always talked about, jump in here, Tom, is if we have our meetings and then we come here and we bring stuff up and say, help. I mean, that's the idea of this thing, is that makes sense, but I thought it was going to be, as opposed to making another committee.
There's a way in which it impacts, certainly, the safety committee impacts parks and trails.
Exactly. That's what I was asking about.
But there has to be some sort of coordination about this, but there are also things that are missing that are falling through the cracks.
Sam, what do you got?
Yeah, I have one thing that I just wrote down here about the fire. We have let's don't have one plan for that, but let's go the other direction. We're wiped out. Now, do we have any plans for a map showing a place for tent encampments for the residents of Seton Valley to use the golf course that's drawn out?
He's been sitting in on our meeting, we didn't know it.
Okay, so you have something, because that to me would be something that, just even a basic format, having that shown to everyone that says, this is what we're looking at, is a real wake-up call for all the residents to see that and say, what?
We've even talked about it before.
Okay, that's what, okay, you're on it, that's all I.
We gave them your address.
Okay, so basically what I'm hearing is that we would like to do some more focus on this forest management, and from the point of view of management before a disaster happens. And Mark, you're going to join the emergency planning team to go ahead and work on that.
Bring cookies, our meeting's Friday morning.
Yes, okay, all right.
Friday mornings during the summer will be good during the school year.
Yeah, we meet the first and third Friday every morning, 10 to 12, at the fire station.
You've got his email address, right?
I'll give it to you.
Yeah, we'll get it. Actually, I'm not the chair of it, if he's not here tonight.
It was deputy dog.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Community outreach.
We want to talk about membership, and we've talked about, I think, at every meeting that we've had thus far. We've struggled, we've been thin. I think
I'm making a list here of committees that are gonna want some more, and here's, I've already got you there.
on a good day, we're 6 people, and on another day, we're 3. We've had a great addition in Gary, but some spotty attendance. So I don't know where we stand, but I think already, again, we were pretty thin, and it resolved that we needed to add members before we charge down trail and develop policy. And yet something else has developed over the last month, which it's come to light that there's a real skepticism and mistrust about what this committee as a whole is doing. And I think that needs to be addressed, stemmed, curbed, resolved, whatever, pretty quickly. And as the Community Outreach Committee, the few of us, I think we resolved that we're going to get pretty aggressive about extending recruiting membership, frankly, across Lake Watcom Boulevard. You know, the good news is that a lot of people understand that what we come up with as a long-range committee means something, and actually has some pretty profound impacts that lead to dues policy and you know, board membership policy and so forth. But you know, the mistrust is troubling, and you know, our committee, our name is Community Outreach. So you know, I think we had to do it anyway, and I think we're going to do it in the spirit of community outreach to just figure out how to round out our membership and how to dispel the skepticism, and do that before we move much farther towards policy development. So
you have some ideas on how to do that?
we do. You know, I'm not sure they're appropriate for this group, you know, to talk about specifics, but there are specific strategies.
Perhaps other the subcommittees can use this tool.
You know what, I would recommend, what I've heard thus far, and I suspect we're going to hear some more, is that we need bodies, right? And it's one thing to recruit our neighbors or sympathizers or our friends. I'm not sure that really, I think that may create another problem.
Mm-hmm.
So balance is the word of the day.
And I'm on 4 committees and already, and that's it. I can't be on anymore. And everybody, I think, is on at least more than one, right? In here.
I'm not,
so,
and I'm not good.
well, you're the exception.
Sam?
And when it comes to community outreach, I want to bring things up at the regular meeting. But just the basic thing, we're driving out the gate, we're kind of going through a crazy motion of some colors of something on these boards that I drive out, I can't read a damn thing on, and they're not clear at all. It's like they're really rent those things out to restaurants or something, because and also when you're going out the gate, that's the last thing I want to do is with my fellow neighbors coming up behind me, wanting me to get out on the road and get going because they want to try to push that speed limit all the way in town. And I'm in the way of that, trying to read the sign, and I'm out there, it's like, I can't make them out. It's like, and I've checked the ones over where I see. So we're spending time and money, and community outreach or message needs to get out, but those things, somebody really needs to look and say, somebody's going out throwing up signs that really are useless.
I've given that challenge to the existing communication committee this year to come back with a proposal for putting signs up at the mailboxes. And just find out, you know, how much that's gonna cost, how many we need, how they're gonna be updated, and all of this. Because you're right,
that change would be huge.
Yeah. Okay. And that's something for right now. That's not a long range thing. That needs to be done within the next year. Dave.
Just a comment, you would know better than I, but I hear rumblings along the lines of what was mentioned, not just for one committee, but for the whole process in general, for the long-range planning effort. You know, why are all these subcommittees being formed, and what are they doing? Are they going, you know, and this, of course, we know what a group is
Right.
advancing this type of
But do they ever
PR.
volunteer?
Yeah,
It's like, then come to a meeting, you know, that's the frustrating thing, is, you know, we get all these letters and complaints about stuff, but no one ever says, when's your next meeting, cause I wanna be there. They're,
yeah, we need to have some type
Noisemakers.
of a coordinated effort probably at your level, Leslie, that addresses this from the project itself, from long-range planning effort, not just one committee, but all committees. You know, here's why we're doing it, and, you know,
we could announce it.
whatever it takes to educate those who are interested as to why it's being done and why it is helpful for them.
Okay. So we're looking at a couple of different things actually. One is advertising for new members for several committees. And another one would be to describe what it is that these subcommittees are doing. So that, you know, just put it out there, spread it, the views and website, whatever, just to try to.
And the advantages to the membership of doing this, that's the whole reason for doing this, is to help the valley and the people who live here. You know, why are we doing this? Well, because they'll do this, and this for you.
We did an article this month, it was front page of the Views.
That was a good argument too.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I think committees writing articles, putting them in. Every committee, put them in. All right, I mean, people, they mail them out. If they read them, great. But it's probably still the best media to communicate as widely as possible.
Between the views and email, yeah.
I think an article from all the committees as frequently as you can write them. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Where are you going? What are you gonna do?
Accomplish, yeah.
What are you gonna accomplish? Hey, can you use some help? Join us.
Why don't we have one article a month with updates from every committee, so that they know where, so there's not just random committees sending an email or an article. We could have a standing long-range plan committee article with updates from each committee.
And who's gonna manage that?
If everyone wants to email their articles or their little updates to me, I'd be happy to coordinate that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
That's
the
a start.
views is due around the 20th, so if everyone could get their updates to me by the 18th, then I can put together an article.
Sold.
Thanks, Steve.
Always appreciate a volunteer. Thank you. Seriously.
Yeah, I think it'll help and people will get used to seeing that information.
You'll always have
And
this
we'll always
attitude
put
that-
you know, please join us or contact us if you're interested in serving on one of the committees.
Sure.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. That's,
I think by July 18th would be our first deadline.
Yep.
June 20th.
One other report from the
Unless you wanted to do it
Outreach.
for this month.
committee.
I think today's the 18th, but yeah, I don't know.
There's a briefing before the communication committee tomorrow night, 5:30 here, about Town Square, the platform that we talked about at the last meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So I plan to attend on behalf of the outreach committee, but I would suggest anybody else that's of interest.
I look for that. How do I get on
It's
that?
at 5:30.
5:30 here.
I went on Southern
Yeah, the
Valley's
finance
page
committee's
and
on, it's out in the,
It's-
the area out there by the cafe.
Sam, it's a different registration process. I think you can get to it through the Sudden Valley webpage. There's a link. But you have to sign
I
up.
didn't see anything on there. It's like, then I found Town Square, but then I needed to sign up, but then I didn't know what member, didn't have the name, number.
If you walk in or call the staff, they'll gladly hold your hand and get you up. It's very easy to get going.
That's why I'm bringing it up, because we had mentioned it here, and I didn't see it mentioned on the Southern Valley's
It's been in the
pages.
Views. Big article in the Views.
So it's in the View, but now you're going online, and everybody say go online, I go on like Southern Valley stuff could have, I've noticed there, we got heat blast thing to sign up for that.
Right.
I guess it's
But
what
I
I should-
think there was
Because
an
you're not
email
alone.
that
I
came out
mean,
with
much of
that.
the community doesn't know about it, doesn't know why they should sign up for it, how to sign up for it. So I think those are among the things that'll be discussed tomorrow night with the communications committee.
I think they only have about 300 or 400 people signed up at the present time.
It'd be great if the admin people could just automatically sign them up as they move into the area. I don't know if that's under plan, but
Yeah, they're.
Well, it's a powerful tool. I've done some digging around in it, and I mean, it could be very, very useful.
especially.
But you have to know
As an
how to
alert
do it,
system,
right?
yeah.
And if you don't know how to do it, then you have to spend some quality time with it to figure it out. So it's
Yeah.
not intuitive.
Do new owners get a welcome packet where we could put that, a flyer in there? Is there such a thing?
They
for
do,
new
yes, there
owners?
is.
yeah.
Could we add something for
Yeah.
that, like just a sheet?
I don't know who's in charge of that, but
The
That
admin
is
has
the
to sign up,
admin.
right?
I would go to the staff and
Yeah.
ask them.
yeah.
I would ask Joe or Lisa.
Lisa would know.
I know that they hand out those envelopes to new members every month.
Yeah, something in there so they could just automatically get signed up right when they get here.
Yeah.
Okay, going forward, safety planning.
We can have a meeting, last meeting was canceled, and then I've been gone, so I'm gonna, did I miss anything while I was gone?
I just got back last Friday, Thursday, and I'm leaving tomorrow, so I haven't even been here since our last meeting.
We've identified, some risks and are working on the risk assessment. Can we hold that up and meet?
Yeah, this is just a process that we've been using, and the thing that scares me, fearless fireman here doesn't, but, as the top right corner there is, basically this is catastrophic consequence and the likelihood of a matrix. And while a wildfire, in the valley, is not certainly, we consider it moderate risk. And if that happens, the results would be catastrophic. And then all of the reactions that we've been talking about for other things, how that all comes together, everything from communication to infrastructure to everything, impacts that. And so what we're trying to do right now is not don't look just at wildfires. There's multiple risks associated with living out here. Some of the stuff that's already here in the ground in tanks. You can have all sorts of problems associated with that, and we're analyzing the risks of that. And then once we get done with that, we're going to say, okay, what are we going to do now? What kind of mitigation steps? And with the thought in mind that this is 3, 5, and 10 years up, so we can be a little bit more aggressive with our objectives, I think, and if we're looking long range, because nobody's going to be able to turn this thing around next year. I mean, just what we talked about as far as forest health, I mean, that doesn't happen quickly. So we're trying to come up with, first identify the risk, see what the levels of risk are, and then start roughing out some mitigation from the most significant down to the least significant. They're still significant, but
Some of the things that we're experiencing is there's a huge, and I experienced this in my professional job, a huge complacency, like that's never gonna happen to us. We don't have to worry about that. And John Messina is the chief of Paradise, California. He and I are playing telephone tag. We wanna get him up here if we can, and at least meet with the board and probably at least our subcommittee, if not the whole LRPC group. And then see if we can get him to address the community in a community meeting at night up in the barn. So he can talk about, because there's a lot of things in Paradise that are kind of parallel with what we see here, exit routes and homes in the trees. We run into this, will never happen, and Sutton Valley, all deciduous trees we don't have you know, coniferous trees, which isn't true. And deciduous trees, they get dry enough, they'll burn just as hot or hotter than any other tree. So, we would like to, I would really like to get him up here, but he's been on vacation and then I was gone. So like I say, we're doing a telephone tag, but we'll work on that.
That would certainly be a good lead into community support.
I hope so.
Paradise, California. I think one of the biggest differences between here and there is Paradise was predominantly manufactured. They are, you know, the kind of, you know, stick-built homes we have here. So that made, I think, a little more from the fires. So, but, yeah.
That fast of a fire is just gonna burn anything in its path.
Okay, all right. So we look forward to a
Yeah, we meet Friday again. We're marching along.
detailed list next time.
That's this Friday, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what time?
At the fire station here, Sunbelt.
Okay.
A lingering item, you asked me to ask Carol Holton for if there were funds available, and I never got a response, so tomorrow is a finance meeting and I will bring it up as new business.
Yeah, okay.
That's right.
Okay. Okay, so then we come to infrastructure and transportation. We don't have a chair right now, and we probably, let's see what we have as far as members go. There's a list here, but, oh, yeah, here we go. Chris Keller, Rob Gibbs, Fred Haslam, Larry Brown, Mitch Waterman, Dave Scott, Carol Holton, Adam Tullis, Gary Bear, Bruce Bishop, John Gordon, Sam Cheyenne, and Mark Lester. This was supposed to be the subcommittee.
Oh, okay.
I think I need to just send out a email to everybody and say, are you still interested in being on this committee? And make some suggestions about how we move forward.
I volunteer, Sam.
Okay, all right, so we'll just let that go for now. You know, one of the questions I had down here was how to involve the members in long-range planning, and you kind of have spoken to that about there's some active outreach to people. I'm looking at parks, community outreach, and emergency planning. Are you looking for new members also?
We're pretty solid. We've got people that don't show, but
You're okay?
there's a core of 5 or 6 that make every meeting, and we're progressing, so.
Yeah, okay, all right, then I'll just leave that one.
Pretty much.
Okay, all right.
You know, I hate to be a continuing record, but I think, to my way of thinking, one of the more important ways of trying to attract people is to get the understanding out there of how it benefits them. What types of problems are we trying to look at, and what types of things are we attempting to do that would benefit them? Are you interested in participating in this? Because without knowing for sure what we're doing and without any idea of how it is going to benefit me and my family, why would I be interested?
I can put an article in the Views for this June, for the July issue, just a general one, and then you guys can give me the committee updates next month, but maybe the first article is just kind of an explanation of what each committee does, and then say contact us if you're interested, and then if we get interest, then I can find out when your committees are meeting and direct them to
That would be very helpful.
that, yeah.
Those two together then. All right, well, let's give it a shot and see if we can get some interest. Get to the point of actually doing some work, just working on specific projects, you know, like the cover for the pool or the forest or whatever. Have meetings where you invite people specifically to discuss specific items. It's not just come and talk about the forest, you know, just here's what we're gonna look at, or, you know. I think that's another thing, is the more specific you can be, the more likely you are to get somebody who has an interest in that area who will show up. Yeah, okay. All right, I have an option here for property owner comments. Meanwhile, it is 7:35. Do I hear motion to adjourn?
I got a question
Yes.
first. I know, Mitch, we've had this conversation. I don't know that, maybe the rest of the group's informed better than I am, but it seems like everything we do, we're bucking Whatcom County. And would it be a good idea to sit down and have you or Joel or the board or somebody explain to us what is it that the county has with Sudden Valley other than we're in the watershed? What can we do? What can't we do? Why can't we do it?
Why don't we invite two of the managers from the county, county planning
I
and.
don't think it's just Sudden Valley though. I
I
mean.
understand, but we should, if we make it, if we do something centric, right? We have a long-range plan group, how can you help us? And we just let them know, we're trying to do this, we're observant of it, we need an advocate in the county. I think that was the reason for Mark on your committee. We've gotta go find people who will be our advocates to say they're trying to do the right thing. Help them do the right thing.
Do we need to be further along in our discussions before we invite them in, or do,
I would say so.
yeah,
But I think we invite a couple of managers, professional bureaucrats, but good level people who really know what they're doing, that are smart. And there are some people in the county who are pretty sharp guys, gals. Invite one or two of them to come in and we give them a briefing and say, how can you help us?
I would not wanna wait too long, because the problem is that we identify, we build this great plan, and then we find out, oh, we can't do that.
Yeah.
So let's, I'd kinda like to have a vector before we start building the house.
Or just have a conversation like, hey, look, we're looking at doing this, you know, what pitfalls do you see along our road?
Yeah,
So
that's
that,
fine.
you know,
If we had a list of the different projects, for example, that your individual committees had said, hey, here's my project. And committees had already said, and we said, here's our group of projects we're thinking about. How can you help us with this? I think that's as far as we need to be.
Yeah.
And then they can look at specifics and say, well, I can see how you're gonna run into a problem, or this makes sense. Here's how I think the county can help you.
Well, even having someone here, like a meeting we're having tonight, we brought up several issues. It certainly wouldn't have hurt to have someone along the line here to hear the type of discussions that we're having and proposing for the valley.
I have found this to be very successful, meeting with the contractors that build in the valley, having an annual meeting and inviting in county managers, and they attend. And they have made rule changes to help the builders succeed. But then they've also told the builders what they wanted in exchange for those rule changes. And they collaborated and agreed. So I think there's a track record of success that can be built on if we follow the same type of path. But we have to be prepared for what they're gonna say, I want this, we want that.
Well,
There is a quid pro quo involved.
we need to know that though.
One of the things
But we would have to have specifics on the table.
One of the things I noticed when I moved out here was this kind of this feeling of being underserved by the county. And it just seems like we have a significant population, and it seems like, I don't know, there's transportation issues getting out to Sudden Valley that I think the county is long overdue on upgrades. But it's, I guess my question is, what can we do to get more clout with the county? So that our voting population isn't enough that they care, or it just seems like I see the county doing projects throughout the other parts.
there's a potential of 5,000 votes out here. They better go.
Yeah.
Aren't we supposedly the fourth largest community in the county now?
Oh, yes, they are.
So no doubt, it seems for our size that that we should have a lot.
We're right behind, Linden and Ferndale.
It's relationship.
Yeah.
We have to build a relationship. GM, Joe is following it. He hosted the last one. County sent staff, then the water district sent staff too. So, I mean, it's the relationship develops. I think that we would have to do the same thing.
Well, and you get a name and a person you can talk to. If we had a question at a later date, oh, so-and-so was here and talked about that issue, we can contact him. And you feel like you know him, and you aren't afraid to pick up the phone and talk to him. So just an introducing him. And so, okay. Any other comments? All right, socially adjourned at 7:41. Thank you.